Worldwide event where there's rallies happening in over 50 cities and countries across the world. And here we are in London, gathered opposite Downing Street, where the UK government has committed further and further funds, weaponry and resources to escalate the war against Ukraine. Sorry, the war in Ukraine against Russia, which they like to tell us is a result of Russia's invasion. But us here, we all know the truth, that this has been going on since long before 2022. That NATO has escalated and they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. And so today we're here to say no to NATO and no to war. And let me introduce today a number of amazing speakers.
NATO was created originally to defend us against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union does not exist anymore. Why has NATO persisted for 3 decades? Why has NATO doubled its membership from 15 to 30 members when there is no Soviet Union? What possible reason do they have for doing that? What was happening for 3 decades? NATO is an aggressive, offensive organization. When they killed Gaddafi, that was not defensive. When they bombed Afghanistan, that was not defensive. When they destroyed Syria, that was not defensive. When they destroyed Yugoslavia and carved it up, that was not defensive. This is part of a salami tactic. They are trying to inch closer and closer towards Russia's borders. This has been a valid, legitimate security issue that the Russians have had long before anyone ever heard of Vladimir Bloody Putin.
But anyway, welcome everybody. I think I just want to start really by saying that we're ruled by psychopaths, aren't we? Yes. It's very appropriate, I think, that we are here opposite Downing Street this morning, and on this day, on this 78th anniversary of the dropping of the first atomic weapon on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. I mean, there was no need to drop the atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. It was, as Richard has said, to send a very clear message to the Soviet Union. It was an expression of the United States' offensive power. And that same mindset exists in the minds of the political class to this very day. And we have to ask ourselves, why does NATO exist? I mean, Richard touched on this point as well. We were told, weren't we, that when the Soviet Union collapsed, we were going to benefit from a peace dividend. The Warsaw Pact dissolved. But far from the peace dividend being a benefit to the people of Britain and across Europe and indeed the United States of America, we saw NATO actually expanding. It's now nearly twice the size that it was when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. So what's the purpose of NATO? Essentially, it is a muscle man for Wall Street. It's a vehicle for the military-industrial complex, because war is incredibly profitable, isn't it? You can only use a missile once, and billions, over $100 billion have been sent by the United States of America. Billions of pounds have been sent by the British government, and we've got 14 million people living in poverty in the United Kingdom. People can't afford to pay their fuel bills and their food bills, and yet we are prepared to send money to prolong a proxy war in Ukraine. It's an absolute outrage and a disgrace.
Listen. This is going to take a long time to fix the situation. It's going to take a long time. The narrative on the Ukrainian conflict, the narrative is going to take a long time to dismantle, because although we are many and we have a lot of great alternative sources of information, media outlets, the mainstream machine, the international corporate media machine, is massive. But it's not impossible. It's been done before. We did it with Syria. It took 7 years. It took 7 years to collapse the mainstream narrative in Syria. I'm prepared to dig in for the long haul on this. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have to push like we want it yesterday. And everybody needs to kind of play a role in that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're told that we're not at war with Russia. Our governments are saying we're not at war with Russia. But every single action, every single policy says the opposite, that they are committed to war with Russia. If we weren't at war with Russia, why is Russian media banned in this country, in France, in Germany? You can't access it on the internet. It's been banned from ISPs. RT, you can't watch. You can watch it on a few video sharing platforms, but it's off everything else. Why is that a problem? Think about it. You have elected officials deciding on policy to do with this war, to do with NATO's incremental expansion. It is a proxy war. This is the perfect definition of a proxy war in history. There's never been a bigger, more well-funded proxy war than the one that we're seeing now. So we have elected officials that don't even know what the official Russian position is from their foreign minister, because Russian media is completely blacked out in Europe, in NATO member states. That's a problem. That means you can't have any diplomacy. They don't know their side of the position, and so how could you possibly chart a path forward? How can you prepare for any peace negotiations? That should be the dead giveaway. They don't want any peace negotiations. Not for until what? Until when? Nobody knows. Okay? The censorship is a big problem. It's a big, big problem. They don't trust that you can tell the difference between what's factual and what's not, and what's, quote, propaganda, or what's Russian disinformation. They don't trust the marketplace of ideas that we're told that is thriving in our democracies in the West. Control speech to throttle the ability for your posts on social media to promulgate based on what? An arbitrary standard that just because what you're saying, what fact you're putting out is somehow matching what Russian media is saying, therefore it's Russian disinformation, even though it's 100% factual. This is the type of thing that you would see in Soviet Russia back in the day. We have those policies now implemented in our governments in Europe. This is a problem. So they're saying no ceasefire, no peace negotiations until such a time that Ukraine is doing better in the war, and then maybe we think that they'll be in a better place to have more leverage for peace negotiations. And I'm also told that until Ukraine recovers its 1991 borders and Russian troops leave Ukraine, then people say it's simple. If you want peace, Russian troops need to leave Crimea, they need to leave the Donbass, they need to leave Kherson, they need to leave Zaporizhia, and then we can have peace negotiations. That day will never come because that horse has already bolted. So I'm being realistic, we're being realistic about it, but the narrative coming from our political leaders is not realistic. It's almost like they're carrying on in a fantasy land where they have the ultimate business model for weapon sales. No sacrificing NATO troops, but endless supply of arms, refilling NATO member states, getting rid of all the Soviet arms from Eastern European countries, and replacing them with brand new American jets, brand new German tanks, okay? NATO is a giant protection racket. That's what it is. They're saying we'll...
Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. To keep up with future videos, please subscribe. This is the Two Boomers.